Tonight, with the goal of improving industrial traffic flow, Tyler City Council has approved a new traffic signal on a high-traffic highway. That new signal will be installed at the intersection of Capitol Drive and Old Jacksonville Highway, just south of Loop 323. As KLTV7's Lauren Tier reports, the goal here is to improve traffic flow and safety.
The installation of the new signal will impact both existing and future traffic patterns at this intersection on Old Jacksonville Highway. Tyler traffic engineer Cameron Williams says the project was deemed necessary by a recent study to retime the existing lights on the thoroughfare, as well as account for new ones.
We factored this one in. The plan is how do we make sure that we're not stopping traffic, that we keep a smooth flow and kind of allow those signals to work together. And that's part of kind of our master plan of upgrading our traffic signals, making sure that we have the right equipment installed so that we can make these things work together and minimize those impacts.
18-wheelers and passenger vehicles use the intersection as one of the few points of access to businesses on the west side of the highway. In addition, the Brookshire Grocery Company distribution center is in the process of moving their entrance and exit driveway to align with Capitol Drive.
And there's some safety concerns out there right now. They're trying to get large 18-wheelers in and out of that distribution facility. Maybe they're on the side of Old Jacksonville. There's highway. There's not a whole lot of queuing on site, and so this will actually get those 18-wheelers traffic off of Old Jacksonville on the side, out of the roadway, and actually that should help efficiency as well.
Timber poles donated by the Brookshire Grocery Company will hold a span wire to function as the signal temporarily until Old Jacksonville is expanded as early as 2028. After the expansion, a permanent signal structure will be installed. Lauren Tier, KLTV 7 News.
Bidding for construction is expected to go out in May, with projected installation in August or September. The estimated cost is more than $300,000 and will be paid for using the city's half-cent sales tax.